This video was sponsored by Matrix Fire Safety. You're taking the plunge and learning to spend fire. Great! You're following proper safety protocols, right? You've got a safety spotter on hand, clear and open performance area, and your equipment is all in good shape, right? Now what are you using for a dip can? Hey friends, Drex here from Drex Factor Poi. I've been spinning poi, fire dancing, and teaching flow arts now for more than a decade, and I'm here to share with you the love of poi spinning and flow arts to benefit your body and brain. Today I'm going to talk about one of the most essential pieces to any fire dancer's equipment, your dip can. Before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Flow DNA, Flow Fests, Flow Toys, Juggling Calling, Pyroterra Light Toys, Spinballs, and Ultrapoi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all these amazing companies and the work that they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by checking out the links that I've got down in the description of this video. Aside from fuel, a safety blanket, and of course your prop, your dip can is probably the most important piece of equipment you'll need in order to spin fire. After all, I don't know if you've checked recently, but the openings on most fuel containers are a little too small to jam a wick through. I've seen people use a wide variety of containers for this purpose over the years. Everything from dedicated equipment that's acquired solely for this purpose, all the way down to improvised dip cans made out of whatever's at hand. But not all dip cans are created equal. Today, I want to take you through what I'd consider to be the two most commonly used dip cans to weigh out their pluses and minuses, because I do believe that there's a clear winner here, and I think that it behooves us as a community to recognize that. And please note, because I live in the United States, I'm looking at this from the perspective of people who are fueling up likely to use white gas as their fuel of choice. Those of you living in countries where kerosene or paraffin are the fuel of choice may not need to be as aware of the safety ramifications of some of these elements of your dip cans. Nonetheless, I don't think it's a bad thing if we're all prepared to use the most safe containers we're likely to encounter wherever we travel. So, first up, we need to talk about what makes a safe fuel container, because white gas, or naphtha, is a solvent and therefore a chemical designed to break down other materials. It's a good idea to keep it in a container that doesn't react or break down when exposed to solvents. This means that any plastic containers are all bad news. The moment the fuel touches the container, it is already in the process of breaking it down, and this can lead to leaks. In addition, because naphtha has a flash point that's below room temperature, it is always producing a flammable vapor. This means that in order to avoid accidentally igniting it, you want to make sure that it's kept in a container that has an easily sealed lid. So this means that any improvised dip can that is created by cutting off the top of a container can be really dangerous. Finally, dip cans should be easily distinguishable from containers used for other purposes, such as storing drinks or food. I cannot count the number of times I've seen somebody store fuel in a water bottle or glass. And several of these times, I've seen a clueless passerby then take a drink out of it. Ideally, your fueling area should be inaccessible to anyone but those personnel involved in spinning fire, but mistakes do happen on occasion. Try to make sure you're storing your fuel in a container that nobody would even think to get into for other reasons. So with all that laid out, here are some options I've seen used as dip cans that are a bad idea. Any kind of food containers, including Tupperware, old coffee or food jars, water bottles, mason jars, and cups are all a bad idea. And in case it's not clear, never use a glass container for your fuel, because if it gets dropped or kicked over, it could shatter, and now you have multiple problems on your hands. Even old metal containers like those used for storing coffee generally have a lining that is suited for food storage and not fuel storage. Again, that naphtha will start to break down most materials it encounters. What's the exception to that rule? Steel. Especially stainless steel or galvanized steel. So our remaining options have to be made of steel, have a lid, and be something that won't inspire the average person to go rummaging through them when they're encountered. Of the options that I've used for dip cans over the years, that leaves us with two possibilities: ammo cans and empty paint cans. Both of these containers are built to be pretty tough and insulate their contents from the elements. Plus which, nobody goes digging through a paint can or an ammo can for snacks or drinks. Now, I've used both options in the past, and I do think that one is better than the other. To get a good idea of why, I'm going to put them head to head in several categories, and I think you'll come to see, as I have, that there is one clear winner. Those categories are ease of dipping, quality of seal, accessibility, and perhaps most importantly, ease of putting out a fire. So, let's dive in. When it comes to ease of dipping, they're almost evenly matched. Ammo cans are legendary for the ease with which you can dip any kind of wick, from bigger poi and contact staff wicks, all the way down to dragon staff and fan wicks. Gallon paint cans are awesome for dipping larger wicks into, but are notoriously difficult to dip smaller wicked props. Especially when it comes to fan and dragon staff wicks, they're connected by a very short spindle to a much larger assembly, meaning the fuel needs to be within relatively close reach to effectively dip them. The key to this is actually that boxy shape of an ammo can. That makes it less efficient at holding volumes of liquid, and because of that, it's more likely to have a pool of fuel within it that is accessible to the wicks. So does the ammo can get the edge here? Not so fast. You can also get empty paint cans in quart size, and these make fueling those smaller wicked props just as easy as it is with ammo cans. So I'm going to call this one a tie. When it comes to the ease of dipping tools, ammo cans and paint cans are on equal footing. Next up, let's talk about the quality of the seal. Ammo cans seal with a hinge and ratchet that makes the lid very secure. On the inside, there's a gasket lining to make the can watertight. This is pretty secure overall, and for the most part can create a watertight compartment. But there is a catch. That gasket is made out of rubber, and like many other materials, starts to break down when it's exposed to naphtha. I actually found this out the hard way at Burning Man one year when my ammo can got knocked over and proceeded to leak out a half a gallon of white gas onto the playa. The gasket was full of cracks and no longer creating a protective seal when the can was closed. As for paint cans, the lid is remarkably secure. It's already fairly good at sealing in fumes just when placing the lid on and becomes completely watertight when the lid is secured. Make sure to keep either a paint key or a set of keys handy for reopening it when this happens, because it can definitely be a chore to open it back up again. When it comes to potentially dangerous chemicals though, I'm going to say harder to open is way better than harder to close. Know what I'm saying? In this contest, the paint can has the edge. No matter how long it's exposed to white gas, you should still be able to reseal it. And next up, let's talk about accessibility. I mean, this one is actually pretty straightforward, at least here in the United States. You can really only purchase ammo cans at Army surplus stores, and they can sometimes be a little bit difficult to locate. Empty paint cans, on the other hand, you can find them at any hardware or paint store. If you live in a city, there's almost certainly one within 15 minutes of you. Plus which, they cost like half of what ammo cans do. One other thing that I did just want to stick in here because I didn't know where else to put it is also the ease of avoiding accidents. Because they're long and narrow, it's unfortunately pretty easy to knock over ammo cans, and especially if they're open, that can create a huge problem. Paint cans are much harder to knock over because they have the same dimensions in every direction. You might kick one a few inches over accidentally, but they're much harder to knock completely over on accident. Plus which, I have literally never had to instruct a person on how to open up a paint can. They already know all that. Ammo cans, on the other hand, can be a little confusing the first time somebody tries to make that ratchet work. So yeah, when it comes to accessibility, I'm giving paint cans the edge here. Alright, so let's talk about what I personally think is the most important category here. Putting out fires. I sincerely hope you never have to put out a dip can fire. They can be pretty scary, especially because they're usually pretty close to your fuel can. But I've had to put out a handful of them in my day, and you might have to as well. It's best to be safe rather than sorry here. So, how do they stack up? Real talk, this is my biggest problem with ammo cans. That lid can be difficult to make work when conditions are optimal, let alone when you're panicking about a fuel depot fire. Plus which, I don't see an easy way to get it back on without having to touch the can directly, and that can get very hot from the fire. But paint cans, on the other hand, I drop the lid on and it does all the work for me. Because carbon dioxide is more dense than oxygen, the fire will actually automatically seal the can for me and put itself out when I place the lid on top of it. This is actually remarkably easy to do, and I've done it this way several times. And yes, this can is actually still usable. I can bend it back into shape and the seal will still work perfectly fine. And I know that there are some people out there that will say that you can use a larger container with a lid on it to seal off the ammo can. But the thing is that I kind of like knowing that I can put out this fire with the equipment itself rather than needing an additional object to do so. And just to put a little asterisk in here, no matter what, you should still try to have a secondary container, safety blanket, and fire extinguisher handy. There is no piece of equipment I've talked about that should be considered a substitute for any of them. But getting back to the dip can, if you got a secondary container that you can seal up, then great. But isn't it better to have multiple potential fail-safes too? Yeah, I'm going to give paint cans the edge here. So much easier and less risky to put out dip can fires. I think they're the clear winner here. So with all this in context, we have all glowing marks in all categories for the paint can, but only in one category for the ammo can. I think the paint can is the clear winner here. I'm tempted to do the whole anything you can do, I can do better riff here, but I think I might wind up with a copyright strike. So suffice it to say, I am team paint can, and I think that you should be too. Want to know what other equipment you should have in your fuel depot? I did an entire video on that very subject that I'll link to down in the description. This stuff is important. Please spin safely out there. And regardless of what dip can you use, and it should be a paint can, make sure to return that fuel to the container that it came in once you're done spinning. Did you see that fire that I put out in the ammo can? I think it's pretty awesome to have a fire safety blanket that I know can handle challenges like that. And that brings us to the sponsor of this video. Matrix Fire Safety makes these incredible blankets that are not only the most durable fire safety blankets I've ever encountered, but they are also totally washable. Put out a fire with them and then throw them in the wash so they don't stink up your apartment. And best of all, Matrix really cares about fire safety in the community and were kind enough to support me making this video. You can get one of these amazing blankets by using the promo code DREXFACTOR over at Matrix Fire Safety. That'll get you a discount on your order, it helps out the channel, and you'll be supporting a really awesome company in this community. Everybody wins. Did you get anything out of this video? Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to help other people find it and to help my channel grow. I also just want to put out a huge thank you because this video would not be possible without the kind contributions of these wonderful folks right here. These are my Flow patrons over on Patreon, and they, along with the wonderful people listed down in the description, make this video and all the videos on my channel possible. If you'd like to help me out in my mission to bring poi spinning and flow arts to the wider world and help people learn to be creative with their bodies, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi and signing up. You can get early access to all of my content, a say in what topics I tackle in the future, plus some great extras and behind the scenes content. So go check that out. Please and thank you. Want to learn more about fire safety? I have a whole playlist of videos I've done where I tackle the topic in various ways, from how to put out different props to the most important information for you to know to spin fire safely. I'll link to that down below and have it pop up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. Have questions about fire safety? Ask them down in the comments and I might make a video on that very topic. In the meantime, make sure to get outside and flow today. Safely. And I will see you with another video on Friday. Peace.